Well, what is it that sets the South on fire? Is it the food? Is it the nightlife? Or is it our very own Louisiana legal badass that, when he is not running his own law firm, offering great commentary on Court TV and 100 other media outlets, as well as on Talk 107.3 with Brian Haldane, he's always spreading brilliance while teaching at LSU. When he's not visiting churches all over the world and setting the social media world on fire, he is the Octopus King. He is the amazing Franz Borghardt. And joining
What's
us
up?
for the first time, the legendary Man in Blue has commanded some of the most challenging projects in New York City, from reducing crime rates to flying up the ranks to deputy inspector. I won't call you captain again, I promise. Via service and high exam scores, from award winning teenage drug dealer to award winning author, to hanging out on the Oprah Winfrey Network, Court TV, the Law Crime Network, and a million other places when nothing but the best will do. He is the great Deputy Inspector Corey Pegues. How you doing, fellas?
How's it
Hey,
going?
good evening.
Again, I'm
I'm
so sorry.
I'm
I'm so
happy to be on with Franz, man. Franz is my guy.
No,
that
Corey's gold standard. I'm just here. I'm token
Next
bald.
time,
I'm
listen.
token bald white guy, dude. I'm just token bald.
there's two
Ah,
of us. No, it's funny, but I did our little video this morning and I mispronounced Corey's name, and I apologize again for that. But when I first started doing this, like I had Nermi on first, I had Josh Schiffer, and I had Cheryl McCollum. And I was so worried about making a mistake, I would write all this shit down and everything like that. And then when I ended up reading it, it sounded like a robot. So everybody was like, just chill out a little bit, just try to roll with it. So like the first time I did that, we had Schoenstein, Rich on, and I mispronounced
yes.
his fucking name. So like we spent the first 10 minutes of the episode being like, why can't you talk? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out, Corey. I promise I'll get it
So,
right.
so
Hey,
I don't know what we're on in line to talk about today. I never know what we're going to talk about. I just show up. However, I'm thinking about Corey because I have a case in my backyard that deals with a New York doctor and a shield law that New York has that they will not extradite this doctor. It's an anti-abortion law in Louisiana. And I don't necessarily, Derek, let me say this. I don't care about the abortion piece, talking about that. I want to talk about the shield law that says that Louisiana can't go get the doctor in New York, and New York will say, we're not, he can't be extradited over this. It's a law that creates kind of this weird, like, non-extradition country kind of scenario. Long story made short, my state made a law that said, hey, you can't have abortions. And if you have an abortion or if you help in an abortion, it's a crime. So a woman in Louisiana, a woman has a minor daughter and orders a abortion drug from New York, from a New York doctor. He ships the medicine to the woman in Louisiana. The mother woman gives her daughter, who's pregnant, the medicine. She has a miscarriage. The daughter didn't want an abortion slash miscarriage. So the daughter calls the police. So mom is arrested. Well, mom is indicted under the law. And this parish, this jurisdiction indicts the doctor as well for this crime. It's a lower level felony. It's a 0 to 5 year felony. But that's not the story, right? The story is New York State has a law that says, no, we're not extraditing. It's a shield law. And I'm sitting back and I'm getting asked questions about it today. And I'm like, that's the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. Because, like, if I can't go get the person, then I can't really prosecute the person either. But what it creates, and it's a long setup, Derek. What it creates is that doctor is now kind of stuck in New York, because if they leave New York and they get like a traffic violation in Massachusetts, Massachusetts doesn't have a shield law, and Massachusetts says, "Oh, you got an arrest indictment out of Louisiana. We're going to arrest you and then extradite you." And then if that doctor tries to fly with TSA, I don't think they can fly either. So that's what I've been dealing with today. And I don't represent anybody in this case, by the way.
well, New York is not a bad place to hide out at.
I love New York. I'm thinking about moving.
The problem is, I'm sure Corey would agree with me, man. It's cold because Corey, you probably got the same shit we got going on. It was 4 degrees today, and it's going to minus 16 tonight.
So I'd like to tell you I'd want to live in like New York, like New York City. But the truth is, I'd be very content living in like a suburb that isn't crazy, where it would be ass cold, like rural and ass cold.
It's actually a really good question for Corey. What with having worked in the police, and I would imagine in a whole bunch of different neighborhoods, where for you would be the best and worst places to go in New York?
Well, Franz hit it on the nose. You probably want to be in the suburbs. Stay out of New York City. I mean, like the city, we talking Times Square for the point of reference for people. It's just too many damn people. I don't want to be in the city. I go to the city once in a while. I go. Usually, I'm not in the city till if I'm in there in the daytime, then I'm on business. I usually go at night if I'm gonna go to a lounge or a party or something. I go after like 7, and that it's the first city or state in the country to do this congestion pricing because there's so much driving in New York City. Now they put a toll on you if you going south of 60th Street. So just for another point of reference, 42nd Street is Times Square. We know that. So if you're going so Manhattan is like from First Street to 170th Street. But if you're going from 60th down, 24 hours a day, it's a toll now. It's insane. It's crazy to drive because
So,
they're trying to stop the traffic.
so I know Brooklyn is like hot and sexy right now, right? People are wanting to move to Brooklyn. Like, is Brooklyn, I know it's a borough, is that considered a quote suburb or is that city?
That's the city. So
Okay.
the suburbs, well, Queens is the city, but it's a suburb. Queens would be a suburb. Long Island, Westchester, Yonkers, like those are probably places that's nationally known. But yeah, New York City is it's too many. Brooklyn, again, for me, too many people. Harlem, too many people. Manhattan, too many people. It's too
So
many damn people.
let me give you let me give you perspective because I know Derek wants to come party in New Orleans. New Orleans is about an hour, hour and a half, depending on where you're going with traffic from my city, Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, highest crime rate like in the country, right? But Baton Rouge is much quieter than New Orleans is. And people are like, oh, you're in Louisiana. I mean, you're like 5 minutes away from New Orleans. No, I'm an hour, hour and a half away from New Orleans. But the difference is if I could live between those two, oh, life would be great. Life would be great.
Right. Yeah, so like I'm like an hour from Manhattan. So I'm in the suburbs of Long Island. I'm in Long Island. So I just go have fun with the crazy people and I go back and chill in tranquility. But Manhattan, I mean, it's just too much. New York City, all of the boroughs, Brooklyn, the Bronx, forget the Bronx is dangerous. The most violent place in New York City, I believe, it's a town, it's in Brooklyn, it's called Brownsville. And the reason it's so violent, well, I was a commanding officer there. So I ran all the housing developments in Brownsville. What people don't know, Brownsville is 1.2 square miles. And in that 1.2 square miles, they have 12 housing developments, some of the most violent projects in the country. So what they did, they built these pre-World War II when the soldiers was coming back for places for them to stay. They didn't realize that 50 years later, it was going to be this low social economic neighborhood where they was going to put all of these people. And now they have generational beefs. Like, let's say like 2 projects next to each other or housing development is the new sexy name. So I'm trying to stay away from projects, but you have to say projects for people that don't know housing development.
Corey's gonna fix it. They're gonna say housing development. That sounds delightful. Jay-Z's not from there.
Yeah, they make it sound sexy. So it's like Van Dyke. So Van Dyke houses is next to Tilden houses, but the kids from Tilden can't walk through Van Dyke. Van Dyke can't walk through Tilden, and let's say they have to walk through there to get to school. It's just an entire mess. But it's safer now than it's been, and I've contributed to that. I was a commander there for like 2.5, 3 years, and we always had a crime reduction, and we actually had better community police relationships. So
I wanted to ask you, I do want to go back to something Franz said there, but I just want to go off of that, Corey, if I can for a second. When you're like, we've talked before with like, Jennifer Coffendaffer when she was with the FBI and all that. A lot of these jobs, especially in law enforcement and Cheryl McCollum, when you start to move up the ladder, they do expect more from you, but do you find, I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with race, that you'll get a promotion, but they'll all of a sudden say, oh, Corey, can you go, manage this neighborhood, where you're thinking, I'm kind of liked where I am. And now you're kind of sending me off to a housing, what did you call it? A housing,
housing development.
housing development.
Government
in the-
subsidy.
So yeah, in the police world, if you want to get your feet wet, if you want to show that you can produce, you go to the most violent places and you prove your point. They don't send you to Beverly Hills for you to show that you can do you can do a good job. So usually the stars, the rising stars, they work at the most violent places in the city. And that's how you move up in policing. And I'm pretty sure that's probably everywhere around the country. So when you put them in violent places, that's where they get their feet wet and they can show that they can gather information, analyze it, deploy personnel, and then lead to a reduction in crime. So being a commander, you have to master the 3 C's, and not in any particular order. It's cops, community, and crime. If you can't master those 3 C's, you're not going to be a good commander. You can't master one, you can't master two. To be really good, you have to, and this is around the country, not just NYPD, anybody in any law enforcement position on a high level, they have to master the 3 C's. So I was good at, wiggling through those 3 C's. But, it's like the 3 leadership styles, Franz. Same thing, democratic, autocratic, laissez-faire. It's like mastering the 3 C's. I would sometimes be democratic, like, hey, can you do this for me? Sometime autocratic, no, I need you to do this right now. Move, I need this done now. Or laissez-faire, like we just laid back, depending on the circumstances.
So what we observe, Derek, is in your congested cities where there's lots of people, small surface area, the justice system in a lot of places is kind of like a triage of there's so many cases, so much crime, and the prosecutors are doing what they can to kind of move things to where, like, because your problem is you only have so much space in a jail or a prison for so many people. At some point, there's a tipping point, right?
Well, the perfect example of that, Franz, we talked about on the last episode, was in Los Angeles, any type of car theft, it's an online form to fill out. You call the police, someone stole a $100,000 car. The police will say, listen, we're not coming. We're busy doing other shit. Nobody cares about your car.
I mean, on the one hand, as a citizen, I'd kind of be like, really? Because my taxpayer money's paying for you. On the other hand, I get it. Like, if I have to prioritize between a murder and your Beverly Hills Royce, I mean, but the ripple effect of, and Corey uses the word laissez-faire. If you go to like some of these more like country, we have parishes, but these more rural parishes or country where the crime rate is like not huge. It's something out of Mayberry almost sometimes. I mean, you have like narcotics arrests that happen. Those are serious and all that. But some of the shit is just like, oh, that's Bob's kid. Bob's kid does that. And, I'll go talk to him and this, that, the other. It's very weird, like the dynamics across the country of what sparks like, like police work, like New York style police work versus like Mayberry.
See, and I was just going to ask Corey that, because it's not like that. I would imagine, like, policing in a town of millions and millions of people. I mean, to me, again, if they send you to a not so great neighborhood that's all overpopulated and there's all these not projects around, it just seems like it's one of those things that if you like, you obviously care about this because like you from when you were young, turn your life around, put a lot of time and effort into this. And you did get some positive results. But at the end of the day, if you had spent 30 years there, I would imagine there's a lot of places where they don't get that positive turnaround thinking, this fighting crime is an uphill battle.
Fighting crime is definitely an uphill battle. And it's a 24-hour thing. Crime ebbs and flows. I'm pre-CompStat, which is computer statistics, which Giuliani and Bratton, really Jack Maples, brought to New York City, where crime was totally out of control in the 80s and the 90s, and they came with this CompStat. So I came in like 92, and we were just starting it, and I'm post-CompStat to what it is now. I mean, crime is so much down than what it was in the 90s. With so many different variables, crack errors over fronts. People are telling their kids when we was younger, they it was like you got to go to school, get your bachelor's. Now we're telling kids to get masters and PhDs. You know, communities are better. Even the most violent places in New York City. It's amazing to me. One of the things, Derek and Franz, I always say, the most violent precinct in New York City is the 75th precinct. That's East New York, Brooklyn. It's
Okay.
the crime there now low. The crime there now is low as it's ever been. But guess what, Franz? It's still the most violent precinct. So I'm always trying to say, like, how can they make the most violent place one of the, nicest places? Like, even the most violent places in the 80s and the 90s in New York City, their crime is down probably 100% than what it was, but they're still the most violent places,
Would
which
you say
that
the
variable right there baffles me.
would you say the violence is connected to domestic abuse, drug? Like, what is it connected to?
Well, right now, when you're talking New York City in terms of violence, if you really just looked at it on a map, it's going to be gangs and drugs. Gangs and drugs. Domestic violence is always there. That's a variable we can't really get a hold of. I mean, we can, we do,
You're never going to be.
we have plans.
I tell people all the time, Corey, you could have the safest city in the world and you're still going to have domestic violence. You can't avoid it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Domestic violence is one of those crimes. I mean, I did innovative things. We would do I had like a high propensity list. So I would have the top 10 most violent domestic violence houses in my area. So my mandate to those cops were weekly visits. You had to go there every week. If they had a court date, I need somebody there at the court date, give them services like Christmas. Maybe we'll bring them some toys. Thanksgiving, we'll lay them out with we tried to stop, but like Franz said, eventually it just flares up because you can't be there 24 hours a day.
Sorry, just a quick question on that, Corey, because you said it was in the mid to late '90s when you were doing this. When Franz and I a little while ago, we had Dr. Curry Myers on. He was a Kansas good old boy and didn't so much say it, but said the policing was a lot easier before social media, before body cams and all that sort of thing. So was part of the success of your stretch in law enforcement that actually letting the police do the policing rather than kind of being afraid all the time?
Actually, it's the opposite. Actually, it's the opposite for me. I think it's a great thing that cops got body cameras because it's the blessing and the curse. If you're a bad cop, you're gonna get caught. If you're a good cop, the body camera will exonerate you if you're doing the right thing. Will we get one or two cops on the body camera that's good that did something bad? Yes, because Big Brother's always watching. But I'm a firm believer that 95% of the cops. And I said this on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and I should never say this again. And I swear I would never say 95% of the cops are good because somebody came, as soon as I got off the Daily Show, somebody tweeted out, Corey Pegues just said there's 85,000 bad cops in America.
So I texted Derek. I don't know if he saw it. Are you seeing the use of AI in policing yet?
Oh yeah, policing is using AI because policing is part of society. Of course they're using AI. AI is embedded all over the country, so it is what it is. My biggest issue with AI, guys, how about this? What do you think about kids today graduating? They're not writing their own page. So I'm telling my son I goes to this high-level private school the other day. I'm like, he's in 11th grade. You write these papers, but you know what he told me? He said his school has like this AI thing where they can't do it. Because I'm wondering, Derek Franz, I mean, I would have been like a 5.0 student today from AI.
Oh, fucking right.
Classes.
Especially, do you remember? I don't know if it was a pilot project that failed, but do you remember what the Google glasses? They were just a regular glass that had a microphone and a screen on the top one side. I know a friend of mine had a test model or something like that. Like you could literally, if you were sitting there taking, I know, Franz, I'm going to take that law exam just for a hoot, but you could take that and you could Google every single question on it. And like Corey just said, you could be like, hey, I got 1,500 on my SATs.
So what's interesting
insane.
what's interesting is in my profession, I can use AI to do legal research, but I have to babysit the AI doing the legal research because early AI would like make up cases that sounded like, and case law that sounded really like good, but you're like, that's not really a case. Now it's gotten much better and the major research engines are using it, but you still got to babysit it, right? You still got to kind of like go back over it, but the time is cut way down. Now for the writing, I'll be real honest with you guys. I have an English literature background. I like writing, but I can't write as well as AI can. I can't.
No one can.
I mean, yeah, an AI photo may have a dude with 6 fingers in it, but AI writing's pretty darn good. And it's like,
I know with the new iPhone, and they dressed it up like when Corey dressed up the word projects. They're like, oh, the new iPhone 16 has clever talk. You can just talk into it and say whatever you want to hit this button. You're like, oh, you're making fucking people that are stupid sound really smart.
dude, the new iPhone technology, have you played with it with your emails? It summarizes your emails and paraphrases them using AI technology. Now you still got to read your email, but like it ain't bad. Like, I mean, like it's a summary. It's the same thing with the text messaging. It is, and it's getting crazy intuitive. And I asked the question about law enforcement, man, because like I just see all sorts of great applications. And lest anybody be misunderstanding me, I may be a defense attorney, but I'm also a dude that lives in my community. So if it isn't my client, I'm all about busting criminals and putting them in enact justice,
Right.
because that, but it is just incredibly interesting what they are doing with technology. We've already seen cell phone prosecutors and cell phones and GPS, triangulation and all these different things we're seeing. And it's really neat.
Again, AI is going to be a blessing and a curse, Franz. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a blessing and a curse.
So
And as far as law enforcement is concerned, I'm a firm believer that nothing in the world, whatever they make, is never going to take away from real gumshoe police work.
That is
it doesn't matter.
And
all of that other stuff enhances the case. Franz knows it enhances the case, but there's nothing like having a CI, a confidential informant, give you that information that the gun. I did 3 buys inside the location, and the gun is in the bedroom in the bottom left drawer. And when we go do the search warrant and hit the door and go in the bedroom and find the gun in the bottom left drawer, AI can't tell me that.
Right.
Yeah,
and the defense and challenges to AI with regard to by criminal defense attorneys is going to be that while it is exceptionally excellent software and it does great things, the problem's going to be that the argument is the dude or dudette writing the AI software inserts inherent subtle bias. And so it's not perfect, right? We've seen it utilized, Derek and Corey. We've seen it utilized in bond determinations and pretrial services. Like, hey, do we let this guy out early? Do we set a lower bond? It's like a risk assessment tool. They're starting to use it in personal injury to do assessments of values of cases and car accidents. Like why? It's kind of like the legal Zoom where you don't need an attorney. Just use this AI software to get to cut the
$99.
sleazy. Yeah, yeah. Don't give a PI attorney a third of your money. Use
We
this
use
AI. I mean, it's scary stuff.
We used to joke, and Corey's probably seen it too, like with the call hurt in a car, call William Matar, and we'll take any case for $99. Like you don't have to come into the office; we'll do it online.
So I got a boogie in like 3 minutes, guys. I gotta ask. What are the hot things going on in New York, criminal justice wise, Corey?
Oh, come on. The hottest thing in criminal
Did
justice
he?
in New York is my good friend, Mayor Eric Adams.
Ah,
I saw you talk to him, what, about 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I had to interview him a couple of weeks ago. He got mad at me because I did an interview on this radio station. It's actually the top urban radio station in the tri-state area. Tri-state is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And I said some things that he wasn't really happy about. And it's funny, Christmas Eve, which is my birthday, I had the mayor of New York City call on my phone at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Happy birthday!
And I'm like, yo, E, what's up thinking? He calling me, say happy fucking birthday. I'm like, he's like, I just listened to that radio interview. You says a lot of bad things about me. I want to come on your show, Corey's Corner, on YouTube. So I'm like, whoa, you really want to come on? He's like, yeah, I want in. Bring me on your show. So I brought him on the show, Franz, and asked him some really tough questions. He answered them truthfully in the best of his ability. I don't know how truthful they are, because he's a politician. But
all right, guys, I gotta roll.
It was good.
All right, I'm gonna hang with Corey for a bit. Franz,
Franz,
thank you so much, man. So, Corey, the one thing, and we'll talk about like when we talk about with anybody that does TV or some, interviews and whatnot, and I'll give you respect for pissing off the mayor because 80% of the people that you see that are talking on news and stuff, it's really these softball interviews and all that sort of thing, which is just so watered down now, especially with all the shit that's going on. Like, if you look at the Karen Reed case or whatever, all this stuff, everybody's kind of afraid to dive in. And that's, I mean, not a lot of people can piss the mayor off to the point where they get a phone call. But how did he have your number?
Oh no, me and Mayor Adams are very good friends. I came through the ranks with him. No, we're good friends. I was in 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care with him in the 90s. We actually studied together for the captaincy. I see you didn't hear the interview. But me and him studied together for captain. It was me, him, and 4 other people. And me and him were the only ones that got promoted to captain off of that list.
Oh, right on. Yeah, no, I have it in my queue of shit. I get so much shit to watch on my phone. I was at a conference in Florida 2 weeks ago, and I got back. No, man.
Did you subscribe to Corey's Corner? I should have asked you that before I even came on. Did you subscribe to my channel?
I saved the video. I told you I'm not good with technology. I don't even have a fucking Corey. Every time we have Josh, they're always like, send me a.
Do is hit subscribe. All you gotta do is press the button.
I'm gonna do it right now. But before I subscribe, I told you I got a bunch, not as many as you. I got a bunch of subscribers. When I put this on YouTube, I'll just say, listen, if you're gonna watch this, subscribe to the other one. Your stuff's far better than mine. Believe me. I can't piss off the mayor if I tried. Eric Adams doesn't give a fuck what I think about him.
Nah, he's a good guy. He's going through a bunch of stuff right now, but hopefully he'll prevail. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what? I think, and like, I'd like to go back to you. I don't know how much time you have, but I would like to go back a little bit.
I got 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Okay. So do you want to just like from, troubled youth moving into kind of getting your shit together? Do you want to just walk me through that really quick while I subscribe to your YouTube channel?
What you want me to give a little background on myself?
Well, yeah, again, when I was educating myself on this, I didn't have that much time because I guess I suck at technology, okay. but it is.
Okay. I grew up. I come from Queens. I grew up in Queens, New York, a family of 5 sisters and myself. grew up on welfare. You know, we had money we called food stamps. It was like monopoly money. Streets start selling drugs, start selling weed, marijuana. Eventually graduated to masculine tabs, loose cocaine, and then crack. And then eventually I started working for one of the most violent drug gangs in New York, if not the East Coast, called the Supreme Team. And I worked with them for a few years. Along the way, I carried guns, shot people, robbed people. I did a bunch of crazy stuff. October 18th, 1987, I went to the United States military. I went to the Army for 3 years, 8 months, came out, went into the New York City Police Department 8 months later, quickly rose through the ranks, eventually attaining the executive rank of deputy inspector, ran two of the most violent precincts of the city of New York. And while as a cop, I got my bachelor's in organizational management, my master's from St. John's University in criminal justice leadership, and I went to Columbia University to the Police Management Institute, which is the #1 leadership school on the East Coast in policing. So I did 21 years. I had an illustrious career. And after that, I wrote a best-selling book. I signed a deal with Simon & Schuster, wrote a book called Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man. And it got turned into a feature documentary after being on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. I got a call for some producers and shot a documentary called A Cops and Robbers Story, and it got picked up on Hulu. It's on Hulu, Apple TV, a lot of streaming services. And now I'm a guest legal analyst on several news shows and just having fun retirement life.
Yeah, well, it's funny when you look at you, you don't look young enough to be retired. It does seem like you again rose through the ranks quickly, but it seems like you got a lot accomplished in a small amount of time. Like, was it the military that kind of turned you around, or it was just like the urge to do better or help people?
Absolutely, it was the urge to do better. Actually, December 12th, 1986, my son was born, Corey Jr., and that really was the pivotal point in my life, was saying, look, I got to get it together now. I have to do something, because you could be two type of heroes. You could be either a hero that's going to do the right thing in life, or you could be a hero in the street. So I didn't want to be the guy that did 5 years in prison, came home, and they threw me a welcome home barbecue and saying, hey, let's celebrate his 5 years in prison. He's home now. And so that's why in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning, the Army recruiter came to pick me up October 18th, 87, and I left the streets. And it's been like 30 something years since I've been in the streets committing crimes or doing anything unsavory.
That's a wild story, especially to come back and be a cop. I mean, it, especially back then, because I know, like, obviously the training and stuff, it's different now. Where back then it was like, was there anything like, not so much you doubting yourself, but it's like, this guy's just going to walk in here and just be a cop, and then he's going to be a captain, and then he's going to be a deputy inspector. Like, was there any like pushback on you, like race or not?
Well,
Just
you got to understand one thing. So Supreme from the Supreme Team, he got to be one of the smartest guys that I met. All right. So think about this. This guy created this organization. He was like the CEO. His nephew Prince would be like the vice president, and they had underlings. And I was a street worker, right? But what I'm saying that they were so
sorry, Corey.
smart.
One quick question: as a street worker, how much could you make in a month or a year, for example?
Well, he was making like 250,000 a week. So I mean, they was making big, 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 big money. But what I'm saying, well, they were so smart that we used to work 7 to 3 in the afternoon, 3 to midnight, midnight to 8 in the morning. And guess who else worked those shifts? The police.
Yeah.
So they were so smart to they knew that if cops worked the same hours as the drug dealers, they could be able to pay the cops off, because cops wasn't making a lot of money. Cops wasn't making a lot of money, and they was coming through this community, and these guys riding Mercedes Benz, BMWs, chains, gold chains, and it was crazy. That's why you look in the mid 80s, it was a lot of corruption with policing, because they was robbing all the drug dealers. The drug dealers was making the money. I mean, when I became a cop in 1992, I made $35,000.
Yeah, it's like,
That
I
was
have to
nothing.
buy
They was
food
making
and
that in
pay
a
rent.
day.
You have to pick one.
Right. They was making that. That wasn't a big deal. But so bringing the question home, when I came into policing, I came from the Supreme Team where there was a hierarchy. I went to the military where there was a hierarchy. I knew where the power was coming into police, and I knew I had to go to the top if I wanted to make change.
That's amazing. So you actually learned structure from dealing drugs, structure from the army, and then structure from the police. So you were
Yes,
just that's wild.
right. So I kind of knew like where the power was. Like you had to make change, you had to be at the top.
So when you first I'm curious about like the transitioning to like your first day as a cop. Like again, before you started to move through the ranks and all that, you show up to work in the morning and they say, this is X amount of thing. You have to go to this neighborhood and all that. Like, did you see like in '92? I don't know what the corruption situation was like, but it wasn't like I'm just going to keep my head down and do my job, or was it like more daunting than that? Like I can see there's problems here, I'm going to see there's problems here, but I'm just going to keep my head down and mind my own business.
No, well, for me, it was, remember, I was just 5 years removed from the streets myself. So it was like I wanted to help try to guide these kids into the right way. I was trying to do the right thing. So for me, it was just like really trying to do the right thing. Uh, there was some corrupt. I remember one time. If you read, did you read my book, Derek? So you slipping. You didn't even read my autobiography. You
I,
slipped.
dude,
I don't even do interviews no more unless the person read my book with
Well, you
me.
should have told me that. I
Only,
could have. I told you. I got this pile of shit to do. I got a whole bunch of shit I got to do. Corey, listen. I love you,
nah,
man.
I'm only joking. It's all right. Is that a New York Jet helmet next to you over there?
Yes.
I love it.
I also
I
got my.
love it.
I also
My
got my
son.
Vic jersey. We can't let those son of a bitch Kansas City Chiefs win another one. Come on.
We can't do Mahomes again. Not again. That's just too much.
You're a Jets guy, not a
But
Giants
yeah,
guy.
I'm all New York. I like all New York teams, but many years ago, I realized that none of the teams is giving me a check, so I don't get too crazy over it. It doesn't really matter to me because they're not paying me. So, like, my friends got headphones. One of my friends, his dining room, he painted his whole dining room New York Giants. Um, he has a stall in his kitchen, not a toilet, a stall. I'm like, he's really trying to create this whole stadium thing in his house. Like, I'm not like that. Like, if the Giants win or the Jets, I don't care if they win or lose. It really doesn't matter to me.
So you've lived in New York your
But I
whole
always root
life.
for the New York teams. Yes, New York, born and bred, and probably gonna die here.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to read the damn book. So for more Franz Borghardt, head over to his online home at www.borghardtlawfirm.com. Check him out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Borghardt Law and at Franz Borghardt. And for more of the great Corey Pegues, use the internet to visit coreypegues.com. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Corey Pegues, and go to the YouTube channel Corey's Corner and subscribe. God damn it! And buy the book Once a Cop: The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man. Corey, I could do this all day, man. I thank you so much for coming on. You're awesome.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you soon.
You got it.
Anytime. All right.